Hello, my name is Mouser. Today I'm going through, I think this is the fourth episode of the series that I'm doing where I go over the Overwatch League teams, give my thoughts on them. I'm not a professional, so don't take any of my opinions or reasoning too seriously. But today we're talking about the Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel had an interesting 2018 series, season to say the least. They started off with a pretty great team overall on paper with Gamsu Note paint. They didn't get paintbrush until the end. They had closer. Closer was coming from the London Spitfire that just came off of a championship run. Like people were expecting pretty good things coming out of this lineup, but they kind of underperformed a lot of because Decay was their main carry DPS, and once he started to have what I believe were disagreements with the staff and the organization of how the team should be run, he was eventually not playing for whatever reason. There are a bunch of different rumors around that, but I won't go into that too much. They ended up dropping almost all of their players, only keeping Doha from 2019. Doha was a stable part of their roster. He was almost always playing. He was probably the best player on their team, along with Crimso and Onigod, those two being big parts of their success to the end of the season. But they ended up picking up Rush and keeping Yong, which leads to a pretty amazing coaching staff, actually. They also picked up aid from the Toronto Defiant, former main support player from the Toronto Defiant as well. But those coaches are actually really, really good. Rush coming off of a very successful Paris Eternal. Yong coming off of pretty decent performances towards the end of the year when he did become the head coach of the Dallas Fuel towards the end after they dropped Arrow or Arrow retired. But they picked up a lot of players who had formerly been coached by Rush, almost mainly from Element Mystic. They only picked up one player who is the outlier infielder. But let's start off talking about the DPS, actually. I don't want to start talking about the tanks. Doha, Sparkle, and Exy are the DPS line of the 2018 Gauntlet winning Element Mystic that was really, really impressive. Even though Exy didn't play, he was amazing on the Paris Eternal. He was one of the best hit scans in the league, in my opinion. Sparkle and Doha, they're very flexible. They're both consistent and always good. Sparkle is going to be the flashy player, the player to, when he comes in and he's playing the Genji, the Pharah, the Doomfist, he's going to be popping off, and he's someone to watch. Doha is he's more flexible, and he's a lot less flashy in a way, but he's still a very, very good DPS player. And this DPS line is pretty flexible. The only issue that I have with it is that there's no very good Tracer player. You have Sparkle, but I wouldn't count Sparkle in the top echelons of Tracer players with Decay, Prophet, Striker, etc. Talking about the tanks next. Hanbin and Fearless, this is probably the best part of the roster entirely. Hanbin coming off of an amazing Paris Eternal, being easily a top 5 off tank, I think. And Fearless probably being maybe the best main tank in the league. You could argue Smurf or Sato or Mono, but Fearless had the best performances on a host of different heroes, and was played throughout the entirety of the league until he didn't play in playoffs. The only thing that I have a worry about is if there's a double off-tank meta like there was in the 2020 Overwatch League playoffs. You don't have a Roadhog player, really. I haven't seen Hanbin's Hog at any point. You also don't have a Ball player because Fearless has not played a whole lot of ball, but on his stream he's been playing a lot of ball, and I assume they're trying to work on that with him, and I assume he's going to be pretty competent by the 2021 season when it comes around. The support line is maybe is a questionable part of the team. Fielder, Rappel, and Jexay. It's the most questionable part. Not saying that it is like questionable in and of itself, but it's probably the part of the roster that if this team doesn't succeed, it might be on the back of the supports not paying off. Fielder comes from the Paris Eternal after a very successful last few matches of the season when he came into the roster after I think it was Gray retired and Hip retired before him. Fielder put on some amazing performances. He was really, really good and really surprised people because he came from a team that didn't have that much success in contenders, but he ended up paying off really well. Rappel and Jexay, they're both from the Houston Outlaws. Houston didn't look great. I don't know if that was on the back of the support players. I don't really think it was. I think there were some coaching mishaps as well as players maybe not like Blase playing Cree, Linkser not playing for the first part of the season, those sort of questionable roster decisions that maybe weren't the best idea. But I think Jexay and Rappel, Jexay is a good main support. I think he'll be very good. But Rappel is a great backup. When Jexay is like the most controversial player on your roster, you know that you have a pretty stacked roster, honestly. I think this team is really good. They're obviously going to be aiming for to win it all. Exactly that. Probably aiming for top 5 NA, probably top 3 NA, top 5 overall. I think this team has the potential to perform really well. I think the coaching staff could really elevate this team to the next level, and the players still have a lot of potential. They're pretty young. They're pretty unproven, and what we've seen of them is really special, and I think it could be really, really good. Okay, so talking about where I think the Dallas Fuel will be is probably, I would say, around the S to S plus range. I think that they will be aiming for the top of the league, but I don't know if they'll be able to compare with some of the other rosters that we've seen, like the Shanghai Dragons, San Francisco Shock, those like very, very high power teams that could put in a lot of work. I know that these rankings will probably have to be changed a little bit because I think that already looking at it, I disagree with some stuff. I think at the end of the series I'll have like a recap of what teams have done since I last talked about them, and then re-rank them where I think they'll actually be. But Dallas Fuel, top of S range, I don't think they're S plus just yet. I think there's still some questions about whether the players will pay off in a way that will bring them to playoffs, that will win them a lot of games. I think that there's a lot of potential, but there's also potential to fall. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, I have a bunch more videos. I think I have a whole playlist of the last 3 episodes of this series. They're all pretty quick. Yeah, so go watch them. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys later.